So I'm in our tomato hoop house. It is May 17th, Tuesday, May 17th, and the tomatoes are coming along. We have every hole planted at this point. It's about 2/3 cherry tomatoes, 1/3 biggie, large tomatoes. But so yeah, I was saying in a previous video, you know, we sealed up the end walls with poly, you know, framing and poly and a door and both sides, and so it gets all sealed up. And on a sunny day like today, you know, midday, it could get to like 130 plus degrees, and I mean that's way too hot for, you know, even tomato, which kind of likes a little heat. You know, you just bake the plants if you have it sealed up. So we have the doors open, and that helps, but that's still not even, you know, even with that, we, like yesterday, I think it got to like could have been even hit 120. It might, between 110, 120 yesterday in the middle of the day. So, so that's not ideal. So my plan, starting today and next, whatever, however long it takes, we want to put roll up sides in this hoop house. And so you can see the baseboard. There's channel lock and wiggle wire on the baseboards. I want to undo that, roll up the poly, and then just kind of clamp it to the poles. And then I want to undo all the bolts on the baseboard and basically just move the entire baseboard up to about whatever, 3 feet, 4 feet up, right where it starts to kind of curve over. And then redo the channel lock and wiggle wire with the poly. And so then the bottom 3 feet would be loose. You put a little piece of electrical conduit going the full length of the hoop house, and you clamp the poly to that, and then you can roll it up, and there's a mechanism to lock that at the top of the 3 feet up. So I at least want to do that on one side, and we'll see how that affects temperature. In all likelihood, we'll probably do it on the other side as well. But, you know, just one thing at a time. So yeah, that's the plan. And so then we have some, you know, an additional means of ventilation. Hopefully we get better temperatures and go from there. In the long term, we want to add some automation. So actually put in like an exhaust fan and then like louvers on the opposite side, all controlled electrically. And so then, okay, how do we get the electricity? We've talked about maybe doing solar. I don't know. So there's still some questions, but eventually if you had some automation, then you don't have to come out and always roll up the sides or open the doors or any of that. You could just, you know, go do your thing and not worry about the hoop house, and it would control itself, sort of like you know, like your HVAC system in your house does. So lots of plans. Howdy folks. So today is October 20th, and that thing I did in the hoop house, that was back in May, mid-May, so it's been a little while. But we wanted to kind of recap our season, because at this point our season is winding down, but specifically focus on tomatoes. Now, you know, we had a freeze just last night. We've had maybe a couple like near freezes in the past week or so, but so tomatoes, which are just in the hoop house, are really pretty much done now. You know, we did a big harvest. My wife elicited a big harvest right before this last freeze, and so some stuff is ripening inside now. But anyway, so we're slowing down a bit. So in this video, so we've had some trials and tribulations with greenhouse, tomato hoop house heating over the course of the season. And as I kind of talked about in that video, we put up end walls at one point, poly end walls with framing. And as you'll see later here, we ended up taking those end walls off. You know, we tried this experiment with rolling up the sides,
we rolled up one side, and I was using duct tape to kind of hold that side up, but that ended up, we had a catastrophic issue. We were at the market this one particular Saturday, and the date is coming up here at some point. It was in mid-June, and it was a windy market, and I usually go home to check on the kids in the middle of the market. Well, I did this one particular day. I went home in the middle of the market, and I saw that the plastic had blown off the hoop house, and it had ripped. And so we basically had to recover the whole hoop house with new plastic. And once we did that, we said, okay, let's just forget about the end walls. We won't do the roll-up sides. We're going to anchor all the plastic down at the baseboard at the ground, and then we'll just take the end walls off and let air go through over the course of the summer when it's hot. And then as we get into later in the season, October, we put the end walls back on. And so that's what we've done. Fast forward to present time, we now have end walls on, just like you see here in this June video, with nothing on the doors. And that's, now being October, that's sufficient to keep the hoop house decent temperature. Otherwise, this is us pruning and trellising and harvesting over the course of the summer. And you can see the side rolled up there. This is before the wind catastrophe. But so the row that I'm working on, that's a row of cherry tomatoes, and then the row behind me is also cherry tomatoes, and the row that Alyssa's working on is larger slicer tomatoes. And let's see, I've got specific varieties. These are all Johnny's seeds. And let me see here. Okay, so for cherries, we have Sun Gold, Super Sweet 100, Indigo Cherry Drops, Yellow Mini, White Cherry, Black Cherry, and that's all the cherries. So, a bunch of different colors, oranges, reds, a couple of white/yellow, and a couple of darker, like chocolate, black ones. And then for larger tomatoes, we have Moskvich, Cherokee Purple, German Johnson, Big Dina, and New Girl. And New Girl we used last year, and I don't know if we did any of the other big ones last year, or if they were all new. They might all be new. We're kind of speculating whether we want to do big ones again next year. The cherries do fairly well for us at the market. We have this restaurant customer, Hidden Jewels in Haymarket, and they like our large tomatoes. So we're kind of debating what to do. The large tomatoes, in terms of yield per space taken up in the hoop house, it's not as good as cherry tomatoes. You get a lot of cherries. Now they're obviously smaller than large tomatoes, but just pound for pound, it's a little bit more productive to do the cherry tomatoes. Let's see what else. Some other, we're looking at potentially grafting tomatoes next year. Okay, so this is June 18th. This is what I'm talking about. You see how the poly just ripped off the frame. And so we basically had to just undo all of that, take it all off. And now it's all bare, and we're gonna put new poly on. First I wanted to put up wind bracing. So, I've got the chains there, and that's fine, but I also, with the end walls on, the chain holds the top part, but the other portion of the end wall can blow in. So it's sort of almost like wings, and they blow in to the hoop house and can bend. So we wanted to go ahead and do some diagonal bracing, internal bracing. So I bought a wind bracing kit from, I think it was Farmer's Friend. And so I'm putting that up. So there's these diagonals you put on all the four corners. Getting back, so next season we're looking at potentially grafting tomatoes. So with that, you have a rootstock that is a fairly vigorous plant, like potentially a determinate plant. We grow a lot of indeterminate tomatoes. Just maybe be a determinate rootstock, and then you graft, you add a whatever variety you like onto that. You slice the stems and attach them to each, physically press them against each other and kind of lock them in place, and they'll fuse together and sort of become this hybrid plant. We haven't tried that, but it's it's a common technique, and we're kind of interested to see how that goes. We also want to try. There's this technique as you grow cherry tomatoes or any type of tomato up a trellis. Eventually, you come up and you hit the ceiling, right? And well, then what do? Well, there's this technique called lower and lean, where as you're pruning the base of the tomato plant, that base gets bare, and so you can actually, undo the trellis at the top and bring it down and slide it over to the next plant in your row. And so you've lowered it, and then you lean it over to the next plant, and then you reattach your trellis at that point. And so you've got your bare tomato stem running along the ground. And so as they grow and start to hit the ceiling, you can lower them and pull them down the line. And so you avoid the whole problem of plants when they hit the ceiling, they curve around, and you have no more trellis to attach them to, so they curve around, and the whole hoop house gets all crazy because it's like a jungle, and the tomatoes are hanging down, and it just gets chaotic. So we want to try to avoid that next season. So some techniques to try. And as I said, we might not do slicers next season. We're thinking about maybe just doing nothing but cherry tomatoes. We'll see how that goes. But so another kind of exciting thing, we're looking at hydroponics, and this is not right now, not really for tomatoes. We're thinking more about lettuce. Our restaurant customer, Hidden Jewels, has said that they'd be willing to take quite a bit more product from us in terms of lettuce, but also spinach. We don't even grow spinach, but we've been thinking about doing baby greens hydroponically. And so with that, it's you get these styrofoam trays, and you use our regular old growing mix media, and put seeds in that and grow it, and it automatically gets watered because it floats on top of the water, and we grow it for maybe 4 weeks, and it's baby lettuces, and then we can mechanically harvest. So we're hoping that whole process would be a little more time efficient, and we could get more product out the door that way, and perhaps get more product over to Hidden Jewels, the restaurant. And so we're hoping for better things there, more production basically for the same amount of labor. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see, what else do we have here? But yeah, we're doing that. I'm building a third hoop house. It's a small one using we have this thing, it's a garage in a box that we got from Tractor Supply a few years ago. And it's just kind of this thing we had laying around. And so we're going to convert that to a sort of an experimental hydroponic greenhouse over the winter. So more to come with that. Let's see. And just generally trying to pay more attention to all different aspects of greenhouse growing. So, you want to try to control as much as you can, and, create your own climate essentially, right? So temperature, humidity, light, water, and then protection from wind. And so we still want to, ultimately we want to seal up this tomato house. And as I mentioned way at the beginning of this video, we'd like to make it automated so that there's fans that will come on, controlled with a thermostat, come on and ventilate the hoop house properly and keep it from overheating. So we're still working toward that. I have fans in this new little experimental greenhouse. And so we're going to see how that goes there. any lessons learned that we can then apply to this tomato house. And so we're hoping next season we could have a properly ventilated tomato house. And maybe that would in turn lead to better production. So all kinds of fun stuff. So let's see. Last things. Scroll over here. We are coming down to the last few markets. We have, so it's October 20th today. We have the 22nd market in a couple days. We're going to that one. But the 29th, we will be taking off. And we'll be skipping the 29th because we have a Cub Scout camping trip and some soccer game. But we'll be back for November. So the first 3 weeks in November we'll be there. And then that'll be the end of our season. So appreciate everybody watching. Hope to get more videos out more frequently. But anyway, thanks again. Take care.